Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL unofficial official stream for the LJL.
You nearly said podcast, didn't you?
I almost did. I get too much in podcast mode, and I'm just like, podcast, but no, content. This is a stream where we cover the LJL. We're actually going to talk about the games and everything. And what a first game we experienced. Damn, that was DFM throwing down the hammer, the gauntlet to the region and saying, hey, we're here to play. Don't give me my Heimerdinger, Sirius was saying. What do you think?
Yeah, and I absolutely love this comp from DFM. So we briefly talked about it when the Syndra was banned. I said, well, it's not about, you know, if you're going to ban a champion away from Syros, it's which ones you're going to ban. I didn't quite manage to say, like, he plays a lot of Heimerdinger and was undefeated on it last split, because you know, other stuff started happening. So Heimerdinger had nerfs over the preseason. You know, his ult grenade became a lot less strong, but it just didn't end up affecting this game. Really strong pick. Had a massive amount of wombo combo with winning lanes and scaling. Fantastic composition.
Yeah, I'm very much with you there. We did talk about how it was kind of wombo combo versus wombo combo, and one of those combos got ahead. And that meant that their combo was going to blow up the team before the other one even got a chance to use it. And we saw it just in lanes, right? Like V3 got a few picks, you know, picked up Gaian once or twice when they were going for Utapon. But while that was happening, we saw massive CS leads being accrued by Evie and by Seros in the side lanes. Towers going down. It meant that, you know, you get a couple hundred gold for the kill, but you'd lose it in pressure and in tower gold, right?
And now the question is, how do V3 go on to this next game now after a loss like that?
I mean, the thing is, I don't hate their comp. I just think they were kind of they were just flattened. DFM just kind of came in and were like, that's cute. And like V3 were keeping it very competitive until DFM just got the perfect team fight for themselves. The four-man Jarvan into the Gangplank, into the Galio ult, and it was just mesmerizing. It's the kind of thing where if you get it, you just never lose, right? And they got that one team fight, and they got Baron, Dragon, and then they ended the game, because why not?
I will say, I agree with you. That was what broke the camel's back, but we did see the strain building, right? We saw a steady accrual of gold by DFM, and V3 getting more and more... I used desperate probably slightly wrongly here, but they were looking harder and harder for an engage because they were kind of realizing that if things kept going the way they would just lose by weight of gold gain. And that kind of turned out to be true in the end, right?
Absolutely, and it was just kind of that was it. It was just the very straightforward thing of DFM were applying more and more pressure in every lane. If they weren't going to win that quickly, they were going to just eventually take down all the turrets at some point. There wasn't really too much of a retaliation outside of maybe the Cassiopeia from Arya, I think it was.
From Ace. Yeah.
Was it Ace? Okay.
No, Arya's on Crest Gaming.
Arya's on Crest.
We'll see him tomorrow. Great player.
That's
Fantastic
good.
lane. I like that guy.
But
yeah, and the other thing for me is that just look at the range differential between those teams. When you look at how far you can engage with Jarvan, and then you can follow up immediately from any range with the Galio and any range with the Gangplank, having a Felios ult come down, which is incredibly long range. You have like either the ults W or E from the Heimerdinger to follow up. They can nuke most of your team from across the board. Yeah, whereas, you know, when you have, like, Misfortune, the ult is long range. Everything else apart from that does mean you have to walk up into their active damage zone, though, and that's very dangerous from the perspective of a no mobility AD carry, and alongside the Cassiopeia as well, right? We talked about both those picks being quite vulnerable into the J4. But I guess we should start talking about the game which is about to come up.
Yeah, so we've got V3 versus AXIZ now, and where do you think this game's going to be decided? Because I still think Boogie is probably going to have some form of impression. I don't think Archer and Reynard really did what I expected them to kind of do. So yeah, I think you're right. Jungle seems important, and I think this is where Hoglet and Boogie are going to have the matchup where it's going to kind of decide the match, potentially.
So, we all kind of agreed that AXIZ look like the weakest roster on paper. They've brought in a couple new players, specifically in Hyde in the bot lane and Hoglet up in the jungle.
Oh, and Corporal too.
Corporal's new, of course. Yes, he was a newer addition over the last couple of days as well. Thank you for the reminder.
Yep.
And Hoglet has got a bit of a test up in front of him in that Boogie, as we said before, is a very good jungler, and even in that game, made some pretty nice aggressive plays. It was that good one across the wall onto the Aphelios.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, for Axis, who maybe don't have that many expectations on them, this is as good a chance as any to take one off V3. We're coming off a pretty hard loss, a pretty aggressive loss to DFM, who they were competing with at the end of last split. So this could be a good chance to get a game off them while they're shaken, I guess.
But the caveat is no one else plays Heimerdinger. It's the caveat.
I mean, what do you do in that scenario, right? When there's
You ban
one...
it. You ban the damn thing. They did it all of last year. Why wouldn't they do it now?
Because, I mean, there is that mentality of you are just meant to try and just get better against people's pocket picks, right? To overall just be able to ban the the stronger overall champions, and you just kind of go, if we let them have their pocket pick, because we know how to beat their pocket pick.
Which
isn't meta, right? Oh, sure.
It is an advantage in draft, and that is a big deal. That versus a team, you must ban this champion because you don't know what on earth to do against it, and it's specific to that team, and it's something that's not a unique thing in the meta, and it does give that other team a bigger leverage in a draft, right? And that is what Seros brings to a team.
It reminds me of who he used Aurelion Sol, even when no one else would play it, because that champion was just so whack. You know, he could pull it out in pretty much any given situation, make the draft just really weird. And that's what happened in this comp, right? Heimerdinger is not something which people can pull out. And I think maybe against more stringent opposition in the mid lane, we would see that pick abused, particularly because Heimerdinger can be ganked earlier into the game by good junglers. I think Diana maybe isn't the best pick for that. I think that if you had something like an Elise, Lee Sin, Jarvan, maybe that would be a bit easier. But they obviously, with the draft they had, it was quite difficult. But yeah, I mean, going into this next matchup...
I mean, Elise was banned, right? So, like,
exactly.
Dead Nation were like, nope, no. We know what Boogie does. None of this Elise nonsense.
Yeah, so for I think in the next game, I think I'd like to see a little bit more early game agency on Boogie. I think he's spent a lot of that time farming. I think that he has all the talent needed to tear open a team like AXIZ.
Sure.
On the side of AXIZ, I want to see them show that they can perform well in lane, have a solid draft, and just see who their carries are in this next game. That's my mission to them.
Okay.
Clear game plan, clear carries.
Clear game plan, clear carries. That sounds good.
Okay, well, with that in mind, I'm going to count us in for this next game, just so we don't have any of this time sync difference like last time.
Believe it. What a start. What a start.
I know, right? Game 1 in, and I'm just watching this. I'm like, panic. There
were some great producer messages coming through, I tell you all now.
Yeah, I was not freaking out over anything at all. No. All right, so let me count you lads in 3, 2, 1... play. And with that in mind, I will pass it over. Good luck, have fun, and I hope this is another cracking game from the LJL.
Well, I already feel bereft of my time traveling powers.
I know, I don't know what we're going to do, because that was the power of the host, right? Was that ability to send us into a different time. But we are, on the other hand, coming into a better time, a time of draft. And the first ban comes through, and it's a Syndra ban again.
Yeah, so it was really interesting hearing, I can't remember if it was on, I think it was Bwipo talking about it on the LEC yesterday, when he was on the caster desk talking about, why do people ban Syndra for different reasons on blue side and red side? If you're banning it from blue side, you really don't want Syndra to be a flex pick, because it does go between the mid and the bot lane. We see the Akali ban coming out from AXIZ as well. Still pretty much 100% ban champion. It goes really well. It's an AP assassin that works in the mid lane, works in the top lane. It does really well into mid and late game, and we see the Elise ban in return.
Indeed, and we're looking at an Akali and a Lucian ban on the other side. Lucian has been one of those surprisingly high priority picks in a way I hadn't quite expected coming into the new season.
Well, it turns out top laners are really weird in this game, so you just play AD carries in top lane as well. You can also play Lucian in mid lane. He goes into the bot lane, okay. He's a triple flex, not very many of those remaining, so yeah, very strong in the draft. I think we'll see that ban pretty much stick to its guns until we see Lucian get nerfed.
We're seeing two of the premier jungles. We mentioned the Elise earlier, but J4 also off the bar. Board. Maybe that is a Freudian slip, and I just want to see Bard in this game.
I don't. So this is so this
Mash
is
Swan chuckling out across the producer's line.
a fun little fact. Bard is the one champion I don't own. This is a Bard-free zone. I don't like Bard. And Set makes it through the draft. I'll stop talking about Bard.
I got him started. Pantheon banned again. Another one of those very powerful flex picks. The Set first picked. We've seen a lot of Set first pick, but he is also one of those champions who is quite counter-pickable. I'm aware that he is flexed, but even so, potentially a risk as a first pick here for V3.
I'm not a fan of Set first pick because there are matchups which work pretty well into him, and if you pick a really strong ranged composition versus Set, he finds it really hard to work in team fights. As it stands, though, we have a Rek'Sai and a Braum locked in, which are the pretty much the epitome of melee composition.
Indeed, and you're like, that shield's all well and good, but it's not so great when it's being suplexed into your team. So Braum's going to have to be a little bit careful out of positioning. And speaking of things that can cause great deals of damage, Archer looking to pick up the Aphelios himself.
Yeah, so Archer did pretty well in laning phase last game and did have some nice bullet times. I think overall, V3, it wasn't about their individual performances that their team can't fell apart. I think just DFM had a really nuts draft and there isn't much you can do about it. Such is the power of Thanos DFM. They are inevitable, but we'll see Archer picking up the Aphelios like you said. And something which I'm interested in is, why aren't we seeing any Senna right now?
Very true. We have seen one or two regions just not prioritize that pick. LCK notably. We've seen the Nautilus picked up alongside the Aphelios. We're seeing the Kiana and the Silas hovered here for AXIZ. Not that many people playing Silas right now, but the LJL has had a fascination with this champion.
I'm going to throw it out there. It is the cardinal sin of drafts to believe what they're hovering. I'm
I
sorry,
know, but I never... The thing with the Silas hover is it's something that the LJL does love. And never mind it for now, because we have seen a Rise locked in instead.
But they hover the TF, so obviously it's the TF, it's a Rise locked in.
Yes.
And the first ban is the Yasuo. It's quite interesting to see, actually, this is the second red side, second round Yasuo ban, which is actually quite specific. That's why it's popped up into my head. I wonder if there are just some picks that the Yasuo does really well into that people are hiding right now.
That, or frankly, that V3 in whatever scrims they've been in before the preseason have pulled out a Yasuo and traumatized the LJL, because this is versus V3 twice. We've seen it. We'll just see if it gets thrown to other teams as well. We've seen the LeBlanc banned against Ace one more time. I'm assuming potentially that Yasuo also an arguably an Ace pick too. Soraka banned. Thank you. I don't want to see that pick right now. And we'll see what the last ban is here from V3. I half wonder whether we might see another mid lane come top lane ban in as well. Or perhaps an AD carry getting rid of something like the Senna.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, so you don't particularly want to ban out solo lanes at this point. Well, unless there's a particular matchup you want to try and dodge, because the Rise, like we've been talking a little bit throughout both the drafts we've talked about so far, Rise is a flex pick, which means that if you think you're trying to ban out a counter in one lane, the Rise can just be shifted to that lane to allow some more options in the lane. We see the Ashe locked in, which is means we've got the Freljord bot lane.
Indeed we do. That's a lot of slows, that's a lot of stuns, a lot of engage too. That Ashe Crystalline Arrow does offer some harder long-range pick and engage, and that's always something for an Aphelios to be worried about.
Enchanted Crystal
Enchanted
Arrow. And we actually
Crystal Arrow.
see the Echo locked in what I assume is going to be jungle. Hey, this is going to be pretty fun. So, this is patch 10.2. The nerfs for Echo's passive haven't come through yet in terms of it losing about a quarter of its damage to monsters. Oh, wait, hold the phone. It's not Echo jungle. It's Echo mid and a Nocturne in the jungle.
Is it a Nocturne mid? Is it Echo jungle?
Oh, no. Please.
Are they going to be following in Misfits Dan gaming? Are we going to see...
Oh, no.
Are we going to see a Nocturne top of the set mid? Who knows? Kale locked in for AXIZ as well. It's all going weird here in the LJL. And a lot of picks to see where they end up. I agree with you. I'm assuming... Oh, gosh. Nocturne's in the mid. It's not being switched yet.
Oh no!
Is it going to be Nocturne mid Echo jungle? Is it? Is it going to be?
Just sub me out. I'm good. You know, I'm fine. We don't need analysis this game. We're just going to pick random champions in each
to
role
see if it gets flexed. Wait.
And
There's still 4 seconds. Still 4 seconds.
It's probably going to be Nocturne mid. It's
Yes, Vedius, wherever you are, come over, get down, come and enjoy the LJL.
And oh man, there's just so many references we can make right here. We've got, I mean, I was gonna talk about how we have Set picked in the LJL, the famous Dio voice actor on that champion as well. We don't get to hear that in this broadcast.
But
'cause we
surely it's
silenced the
so much
stream.
more JoJo to have something like the Nocturne mid. What a stand paranoia would be.
You know what? I'm not gonna talk about that show because I haven't watched it.
That's interesting. I would have thought you of all people would, but avoid it.
Besides that, we have some interesting League of Legends to talk
We
about.
we do.
So I think we've got a lot of blue on the red side. I think that's what's important about the composition. Rek'Sai kind of blue.
You just given up with analysis.
Rise is very blue. Ash and Braum also very blue. I feel like in terms of color composition, I feel like they could have picked something different in the top lane. Maybe picked like one of the Freljord skins. But
it's just Eiffel 95. They've become a French team and they're going to start being blue dabba-dee dabba-die. But until that point, let's get some actual analysis done. I actually think that the Kayle specifically into the set is going to be a really useful pick. And actually, it's a free lane for the Kayle potentially. Who does get to sort of have some range.
So I think Kayle does really well into set post level 6 when you have those ranged autos. But if Set ever manages to land the face breaker,
that's the one, the dragon.
I have not done my homework on his ability names.
We have Knuckle Down on the Q, Haymaker for the W. It's Facebreaker on the E, and it is Showstopper over on that ultimate. But never mind that, we're in straight to a pause. So maybe we can do a little bit of deciphering, decoding of these slightly unusual compositions.
So, this is good though. So we can set a precedent for what we do in future pauses. What we did when we were practicing our cast for this is we invited Lexi back. Lexi, would you like to talk about these color compositions with us?
No.
Sure.
No, he doesn't.
Sure. No, I wanted to leave you. I wanted to leave you hanging for that split second, and then talk about it. Obviously, we've got a game pause happening at the moment. I will disappear the second they're out of that pause. I first want to do a quick correction. Sam, Eiffel 65 is not French. They're Italian.
But that's like Eiffel
No,
Tower.
no, they're Italian.
No, I'll take that.
I watched my Vice documentary about how it came up and was a thing.
Look, I literally only know Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die.
If I spent 25 minutes
on a metal cover it on the keyboards, that's about all I have for you.
I spent 25 minutes watching a Vice documentary. I've got to use that knowledge for something, and it's come in use. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. I can retire my Eiffel.
Throw it out there. If we're going to talk about music, I literally only know about early 2000s new metal and Linkin Park. I'm really not very useful in this situation. I'm here to talk about League of Legends.
So let's talk about this. We're back in. I'll disappear. Good luck. God, this is interesting comp. Blue comp, go.
Yeah, so never mind that analyzing compositions. We talked instead about unusual bands that play songs that may or not be French or in fact Italian. But until that time, we're gonna the angry yelling of my producer echoes in the distance.
Actually put me out my misery. We've got a Nocturne mid. We have an Echo jungle in a patch which I'm not entirely sure he's great on. Okay, so let's take a step back and actually talk about the team comps. So AXIZ actually have a really good 1-through-1 scaling comp. I think that once Kayle gets to about 2-3 items and has level 11, Rise gets to a similar amount of items and XP as well. They can slip into a 1-3-1 pretty easily because Ashe is pretty okay with a wave clear. I think that the only danger with that, though, is that V3 have a really good comp for shutting down a side lane with the Nocturne ult into a lot of CC from the Nocturne and the set, regardless of where they are on the map.
I think there's also a lot of room for dives. Echo is a very strong diving jungler. If you coupling that with either a set and a Nocturne flying in or the Nautilus down on the bot lane, there is some serious room for some serious dives. So we'll see where that goes. I will be curious to see how this early game pans out. I imagine Rek'Sai will have the early advantage with the sort of the Hail of Blades pick as well as that Keystone.
Yeah, you know what I find interesting right here is that actually, so Ace gets a really early shove on in mid lane, uses the Dusk Ring of the Q from Nocturne and also the Cleave passive, the Umbra Blades, to really shove in that wave early, get a ward down on Raptors, much like we saw Syros do against V3 in the game beforehand with the Heimerdinger. So it's very interesting to see how this early shove first wave meta is going.
We saw that really work out for DFM as well. It allowed Steel to get some early pressure. It allowed a lot of early objective takes, and we'll see whether V3 can kind of turn this around. And Paz is already up to a better start. He's actually got some CS this time.
Ooh,
and we're seeing a great
behind.
engage here from Reyna straight away. Corporal taken down to about half HP, but does have pots to burn.
Yeah, so Corporal, for those that you don't know, he's an OCE import. He's fluent in Japanese, so he's quite an interesting player. He's the only OCE import on a starting roster in the LJL. So, well, I'm hoping to see great things from this player.
Indeed, we've seen a lot of OCE imports over a number of leagues, actually, this year. And that's probably a good thing for the region. They've been kind of, especially as an English-speaking region, not really had as much influence on other leagues as perhaps people might expect. And this top lane still continuing to be a little tricky for the Kale before she has her range.
Yeah, so you get to poke out a little bit with the E and, secure some farm with that, but you're not a klepto top laner anymore. You don't get to just, like, feed yourself on the tanks, which are just basically money bags to you at that point. So yeah, it looks like a lot of these lanes are kind of devolving into where we'll see their lane state settle into. We see, Nocturne and Rise trading, pushing. We see a pushing bot lane because there's a lot of threat from the Nautilus and the Aphelios onto the Ashe and the Braum. Looks like actually the top lane's doing pretty okay too.
And we're seeing Hoglet come in for what looks like the first gank of the game. Paz is very far up. We know he likes to do this. He's going to see what he can do, but that's a flash in now from Hoglet. He's going to use that Haymaker for the massive shield and flashes out. Flash for flash, but set now without his return ganks available at some point.
Yeah, so interesting things about this set. We see the Aftershock rune picked up, so when he does land that Facebreaker, does immediately proc that and get a lot of resists, which are pretty nice in the early game for surviving a lot of these ganks. Also has, the massive shield from the Haymaker, which allows you to have this turnaround runaway potential, as we just saw there. Manages to slam both the top and the jungler from AXIZ into each other and get out scot-free, but at the cost of his flash. So actually not free at all, I'm sorry.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And it means that this Kale gets a little bit more freedom in the top lane and actually picking up a fairly decent amount of CS now too. Set lost a little bit in that gank there, and that's going to be a bit of frustration considering he was shoved up a long way. But Hoglet does a good job there to punish. But on the other side of the map, we're seeing about a 10 CS lead down for Archer in this bot lane. And a CS lead for the Nocturne in mid.
Oh boy.
It's happening, buddy. You're going to have to learn it. Let go of your RE one-trick ways. Embrace the darkness.
I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I'm you know what? I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah, so what we see here is that actually Rise has managed to stack up a wave here in the mid lane, which I think is fine for Ace. He'll be hitting level 6 off the next wave. Just clears out the wave anyway, as I say that, so actually ignore what I say about push. I don't understand this lane matchup. I don't play either of these champions.
Speaking of not understanding this lane matchup, we're seeing Hoglet here, hanging around. Looking for a potential engagement. Ace, no, buddy, what are you doing? Why are you going to poke Gary there? He's got the spell shield, though. Flash is out, but that was really risky, buddy.
It was a bit risky. Does try. I think what he's trying to do is he's just trying to...
we
see
get
a 2v2.
But there is a tunnel there for Rek'Sai, keeps him safe. But Ace, following along that dark path of darkness and shadow, not quite quick enough to catch up and get some fear down.
Yeah, so the reason that he was looking for wards there is that on this wave, he has hit level 6. You see him just tick over now. And what this means is now the warning bells are now all along AXIZ's players there. You just got to sit. Whenever he leaves lane, and he can shove out lane, as we've been talking about before, you just need to be really aware of where he is. If there are wards in these side bushes, then Ace can definitely roam to these side lanes pretty unimpeded. Fight the bot lane.
We are indeed seeing that, but it's a route from the Gravitum to keep things down. But Boogie is roaming. Hoglet is here. Nocturne has 6, and we talked about the dive potential. It would be a 4v3, and Archer is low. Let's see if they're just threatening for plates or they're going for this. That comes down the parallel convergence, but here comes the paranoia. Lots of damage down, and in comes Ace. Nocturne there. Gets one, Nautilus gets 2, but incoming Kale to pick up the Nocturne in return, and Gariaru is flashed in, but it's a 1-for-1, and Corporal has been ulted by the Kale, is going to survive, and I think that's a 3-for-2 in favour of V3, but that is a bloody fight.
Is that a 3-for-2 or a 2-for-2? It was a lot of things burned in that
2-for-2, apologies.
Yeah, so we saw Nocturne ult used.
It was 3-for-2, definitely.
3-for-2. Okay, yeah, don't. My counting is bad. Okay, so what we saw there is that we saw fights before the junglers had level 6. It's great for the fact that they had the Sad ultimate and they had the Nocturne ultimate, but going into the replay now. So the W used early from the Echo doesn't get a stun, gets to use the shield here, and they manage to dive very quickly onto the Ashe, who does die very quickly, doesn't have the ult to back herself up as well, but there's just a lot of tower aggro coming in here. So Ryze had used his teleport to get back to lane, but still had his ultimate to cross that ground, get to the fight early, even when the Nocturne's paranoia is down, doesn't stop Ryze being able to free cast his ultimate, so does manage to turn up and make it into an even numbers fight with the teleports coming down from both top laners as well. See a fight in the mid lane, maybe?
We have seen a little bit of a fight, but Reyna pops out of the bush and dissuades any further engage. Hoglet has got 6 though now, so that Rek'Sai ultimate available, that execute available. We'll see where this goes. But that was an aggressive first dive. It has led to V3 getting a slight advantage here of about 1,000 gold. And there's been some TPs burnt. We'll see where it goes from here though. Probably not as clean as they would have liked.
And the other sad thing is that actually 2 of those kills went to the Nautilus. You know, at this point in the game, actually you have... I don't mind supports getting early kills. It allows them to get to early Moby boots, early first items, which tend to be very efficient for supports. They have some very gold efficient items on their roster, stuff like Knight's Vow, Redemption, all the other stuff. But when you have an Aphelios who does want to be coming into these mid-game fights with a lot of strength, and you have a Nocturne who's working as an assassin in this game, going actually for a Dirk item first. I don't know whether we'll see the Umbral Glaive, which means that we'll have his Umbra Blades with his Umbral Glaive in this game.
A lot of dark umbralness occurring.
Yeah, lots of darkness. You stare into the abyss, and the abyss stares back with a very large amount of lethality.
Right, parallel convergence down, just shy.
Yeah, it's worth a try. You know, he's not wasting any time here as well. He's got camps waiting to respawn, so he can just go back and farm his red buff for his bot side. Any of those things really, but yeah, so I think it would be yes, it's very important to get knocked into these first couple of item power spikes, just to make sure that he is kind of snowballing and has the extra damage threshold to dive onto someone like this Kayle and blow them up in these side lanes.
Indeed, and that CS lead now starting to accrue for the Kayle in the top side has now got a 20 CS lead, which is bad news for the set. It's going to be interesting to see how this continues. The range matchup is one that Set struggles with. And Hoglet here starting up on this Rift Herald, but Paz is blast coned over. Is he going to spot this Rift Herald occurring? Yeah, he's pinging it now, but it means that Boogie's coming down bot, and they're going to force AXIZ off this bot side. But AXIZ seems to be willing to trade the early tower bot for the Rift Herald top. Not necessarily the trade you always expect, as Ace is now going for this dragon along with Boogie, so it'll be a dragon and a bot lane tower here for V3 for probably just a Rift Herald and the top lane tower.
So I'm not sure that V3 will be able to take the tower on this wave, because obviously when you take a tower plate in the early game, the resistances to the turret go up. They go up pretty high as well, and they definitely go up much more than they used to in the past, which means that towers are just really hard to take in the early game, just as a couple of people, as opposed to a Herald slamming into the turret and taking 2 or 3 off immediately.
Parallel convergence comes down, AXIZ backing away from the turret, and that's beautiful. There was some stuns for that, but stand behind me. The Glacial Fissure comes out, but it's not enough. Hyde is burning down, and Nautilus secures his 3rd kill of the game, but Echo is chasing Stopwatch Born now from Corporal, but he's got no way out, no flash, no nothing. Nautilus, bloodthirsty, 4-0-0.
Oh, and while we saw Boogie falling short on a couple of the plays in the last game versus DFM, he's finally managed to pull off a fantastic dive onto this bot lane. Double stun onto the members of the bot lane of AXIZ, gets them 2 kills and a turret as well, making this map state very uneven.
And at the same time, AXIZ don't catch the top lane tower. And
that's
look
so
at
sad.
that.
We see the Aphelios come in for the follow-up route, Ignite goes down, and at this point it's just lights out for AXIZ. They were doing, which is really sad, because actually they were doing really well at avoiding this dive on the wave before this, but then they just get a little bit greedy, think that V3 had taken a bit more time on the dragon and moved off elsewhere on the map, but they just return bot and look for that dive again.
And Set did keep that top lane turret, as I was trying to say as we kind of went for that replay. And it means that AXIZ don't get anything in return, and we're looking at a pretty monumental 30 CS lead now in that bot lane.
Yes, not only do they have a blue composition, they are feeling blue too.
Indeed, and beyond feeling blue, Nocturne is feeling red and bloodthirsty. That is a Duskblade of Drakthar picked up, and a huge CS lead for that, not CS lead, gold lead even for the Aphelios.
That's a 1.5 gold lead just on the AD carry. And that, that makes up for most of the gold lead overall. You know, there's a 1k gold lead on the Kale, but actually Set's pretty okay with low efficiency, but low gold build. Oh, was you see Boogie trying to dive onto hide again?
He's
Oh,
not
he
quite
doesn't
got it,
get
but he's got the slow, and he's going to keep going. He's got a chrono break. Crystal Arrow does come out. Set has to flash away here, even with the grit stacked. But that means that Axis will probably trade for this bot lane turret, but V3 already on the top lane one, and I think they probably have the shove faster right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you show the Rek'Sai and Kale bot side as well, it does make things very dangerous with this Nocturne getting free shove in mid and being able to turn up to that top lane as well. You don't really want to show on that wave and be dived by the paranoia once again.
And without the Kale there to save them with the Divine Judgment, there's going to be risk, right? The Nocturne can just detonate you. I mentioned that Duskblade pickup. A lot of damage coming out of nowhere.
Oh boy, so instead of the Umbral Glaive and the Umbra Blades, we've got the Duskbringer with the Duskblade.
Indeed.
You know, this champion is basically just made to confuse casters. I'm convinced at it by this point.
Well, never mind that, because Reyna is going, I will 1v2 you. I am a 4-0 Nautilus. I have...
He's 4-0, what?
He is, he is, and I believe, is that a Zeke's Convergence picked up at 13 minutes in the game?
Sorry.
He's got a 400 bounty on him.
I'm sorry, what? What? That's so much gold for an all. Okay, so you know I was talking about after the first two. I'm sorry, I just had not paid attention to who was actually getting the kills as opposed to actually who just died. Maybe I should pay a bit more attention to that. That is a lot of gold for an early Nautilus. And what this actually does mean is that as one of their frontliners, this Nautilus can buy so much time in the front line. Zeke's Convergence does give you that early CDR, means that you are buffing up your AD carry with that Ice Storm and the buffing up the autos that your AD carry as well, which means that actually Nautilus is going to have a lot of power in these fights.
Yes, and let's have a look into that gold lead. It's about 3k now for V3, and there's some big items coming in. Essence Reaver and BF Sword in for Aphelios. I mentioned the Zeke's Convergence, but on the other side, Gunblade is in for Kale. Roa completed for Ryzen stacking up, and Ashe just about completes her Blade of the Ruin King too. And yeah, Ashe is a little way behind, but she was always a relatively utility-heavy AD carry anyway, and the fact that the Kale has got damage, has got items, means that she can start to scale and be that end game carry we know she can be.
Yeah, and I think that Ashe kind of has to go Blade in this comp really because she's such threat. Oh, there's a root coming down.
That's the Gravitum, Moonlight Vigil, and incoming
so
Flash, Nautilus, Dredge line, Aphelios claims that kill onto the Ashe.
Oh, the
no
BM
chance,
from Archer.
no way. And that's some rough stuff. Ace is coming in behind now. Duskbringer lands. That trail now following. I don't think Corporal and Uinyan want to step up to this, and that means the mid lane Terror is taken real swiftly.
Yeah, so what happened there was we saw the first root come in from the Aphelios ult, because it was on the Gravitum, straight into a Nautilus, which pulled the Ashe back into the parallel convergence from Echo. That is like a good 5 seconds of guaranteed CC. That was so disgusting.
It really was. I think Hyde's only option there was just flashing the Moonlight Vigil and hoping.
But this is the problem, right? So this is one of the things which people complain about with the Aphelios, is that you don't know the consequences of this very pale-looking skill shot looking at you. You don't know the difference between whether it's the Infernum or the Crescendum, or indeed the Gravitum in this case. And I think what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks as pro players, as we see the Matt and Drake come down and the Ocean Rift come out, is that a lot of players are starting to get to grips with what is the actual power beyond the initial burst of Aphelios. And when you can immediately root up several people into follow-up CC from a full screen away as Aphelios, you have so much ability to play around that kind of guaranteed CC. Good trades from Uinyan onto Ace, though.
Indeed, yeah, that's the power of the Gunblade, gets the slow. Ace takes a bit of a greedy route into the tower and won't be able to save it now. Especially considering Uinyan can always dive with that ultimate. So we'll see where it goes from here. Hoglet coming down as well, forcing Ace all the way off as Axis come for an invade of the red side, and fairly successful at it. That's a lot of deep vision. 3 pink wards down here, making sure this split push can continue with impunity.
Yeah, but the problem I have with this is that, so while it does buy you time to push with your Kale, like, what's actually on that side of the map? You have 3 pink wards guaranteeing you get what? You mean there's no dragon?
Apparently, you guarantee losing your mid lane tier 2, as Hoglet kind of around the back and V3 about to back into Axis' red side, and the tower just stands.
Yeah, it does. And the problem I have now is that when you have a near about 3k gold lead onto V3, when they actually have a really strong composition at this point in the game is that when you're trying to ward out for plays and split pushes like this, what's realistically going to happen when you look for fights? You know, I think that at this point in the game, if you start trying to engage with the Ash Arrow, if you don't hit the Echo and kill him before his ult comes in, which I don't think you have the damage for, I think that V3 can reset the fights really well.
Yeah, that's very true. We're looking at Axis pushing in down on this bot side as the Rift Herald is captured and taken by V3. Second one of the game, of course. Rift Herald is now double spawning in the new season. Yep. But nothing is going to happen. Paz does manage to hold onto this tower, even if this KO is starting to accrue a 50 CS lead. And Boogie is just going to dive it because he's got, you know what, Chrono Break, and I can do this without minions. Mid lane tier 2 claimed. And they're going to rotate up to this top side as well.
And actually, what a comeback game from this Echo, from Boogie. Because, you know, he had a tough game versus arguably the best team in the league. I know I've been, if you watch our podcast, selfless plug, same shameless plug.
3 now.
Then we talk about how we think that actually a lot of teams are in contention for the title this split. But DFM is definitely first and foremost among them. You know, they have this history behind them. And playing against it,
here comes a Paranoia, and so much damage from the middle of that visual.
Survives.
Top lane tier 2 takes down, but we're looking at the Braum going down now. Rek'Sai goes diving into the back, has to flash up, but did at least kill somebody. And Ace is still running rampant. That KO has been stunned, hasn't got damage. Flash forward from Archer with the Severum for the healing, and that is so much damn damage from this Aphelios.
Okay, so there's no time to talk about narrative and the meta state of things. Archer is just popping off
5-1 and 5
on that Aphelios. That's some crazy damage. The Crescending comes out, flashes forward with that increased move speed, doesn't have to stop to auto attack, does it on the move. He does everything, roots the Kayle and chases them down. Fantastic fight from V3 in the top lane.
And like, that is now a 6k gold lead. It's a top lane inhibitor turret taken, and this is at 18 minutes. We were talking about slow games in other regions.
Yeah, so this is a fantastic parallel convergence. Once again, Boogie diving in, just about makes it out, actually does the rise with the ult from the Kayle, but the ignite ticks on over that. Hoglet dives in, but it's a little bit too late there, and the backline from V3 is just pretty much unscathed, really. The Nocturne dies, but that's literally it. It's a 4-for-1 and a turret going down with the help of Shelly.
Indeed it is, and with the amount of items, Infinity Edge completed for Aphelios now. Gargoyle Stoneplate for this Nautilus.
Yeah, for the first time this game, someone's overtaken Reyna in kills. This is the Nautilus of nightmares. Forget this Nocturne. He's just like the boogeyman for the real horror that is Reyna's Nautilus this game. You don't want to run into this guy in a dark corner.
Doa said it best, supportable combat is the way forward, and that Nautilus has all the tools to make your life a bit of a misery.
Yeah,
and like, we have got a lot of scaling on the side of Axis. Rise, late game in a side lane. Kayle, late game in a side lane, will be unmatched. But Baron has spawned, and V3 are starting it straight away. They know they've got items and damage, and this is a way of pulling Axis into another fight they're not quite ready for.
And the terrifying thing is that actually that Archer is going to have a really good set of weapons for this next fight. He has the Crescendum on one side, has the Infernum on the other.
Vision comes in, Paranoia is down, Archer already has slain Hyde, Corporal is dead too. That is now 2 dead, the bot lane's gone, and they're right back onto this Baron. Parallel Convergence is down. Chrono Break is still up, but on the other hand, Uinyan has got a little bit of an attack onto Reyna, but he's so tanky, just burns Stoneplate, and he's fine. Hoglet now being forced away by Paz, who's still got, doesn't have the ultimate, I do apologize, throws the Haymaker, Hoglet's gone in, and he's not got it because Echo has taken it, but that got way closer than it could have been. Flash in from Hoglet, still dies, and that means that Archer claims another kill, and the Haymaker comes through, true damage onto Garyadu, who passes away as well.
It's a really good attempt from Axis there. You had the Kayle ult to buy time for Hoglet to get into the pit, try and go for the smite, but at the end of the day, he's 2 levels down onto this Echo, which Boogie is piloting fantastically well. 0-0 and 11 on this Echo so far. 11 out of the 14 kills, some fantastic kill participation. And once again, Archer just racks up the kills, 8, 1, and 5 after that little skirmish.
Yes, he is that Aphelios that was, you know, there is a recipient of a lot of early kills, or a lot of early assists, rather, from the Nautilus, has taken over the show, just completed the 3rd item, Runan's Hurricane, as well. This guy is a monster!
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting? We've been talking about how junglers don't tend to be that high up in XP, that high up in gold. This Echo is actually on the same level as his mid laner. I can't remember the last time in a pro game I saw a jungler actually be that high up in XP.
I know. I think probably just a
Oh,
lot
it's
of
coming in again.
consistency. We've got a bit of a freeze here on our stream, but incoming Moonlight Vigil, I'm assuming. We'll see where this goes.
Oh, we've had a bit of a technical difficulty.
But that's
All we
fine.
see.
People, I think that might have been on the VOD instead. That's okay. Gariaru in that time did pass away, but Kale is split pushing in the bot lane, and that was the top lane.
Hotlands.
Sorry, we're going to see an engage though in the middle while Kale is not here, and that's looking like a very, very dead Rek'Sai who has to put stopwatch. But Hyde does kill the Nocturne who went too deep, but it doesn't matter because the Rek'Sai is still dead, and Kale is going to have to think about backing ears here. Does have Divine Judgment, may have to use it, has done now, but I don't think it's going to be enough to save because the parallel convergence is there, and she is gone. Boogie's still here. He's still got parallel convergence. Haymaker comes through for a little bit more damage. Archer has Crescendum and Infernum. You don't want to walk into that. Gariaru is here throwing damage out to Paz, but he's just there, memeing in front of there, taunting in front of there, and that's going to be game for V3.
Oh, the smackdown comes in at the end of that game. Fantastic set of plays to cleanly close out this game for V3. Lexi, I think it's time to bring you back. Well, another quick game. I heard that this meta was going to be slow. I thought this meta was going to be slow. LJL proving us wrong so
Every
far.
other region is playing this. It's playing it so much slowly, and then the first 2 games of the LJL so far have been like 25 minutes. What is sub 30? Almost every game I've been watching in every other region, it's like, all right, so 30 minutes is normally where the games start ending. That's when Elder Dragons start coming. We haven't seen an Elder Dragon.
We haven't seen anything.
We can't get to that time.
What? We haven't seen a dragon's soul. Everything's just ending before that.
And this is the region that we went in expecting. This is it, guys. It's going to be 40, 50-minute games. No. Both games. Definitive.
Yeah,
Wow.
so just a little bit, just working into our minds and stuff. So while we were prepping for this region, we were thinking, okay, right, DFM has always been this team which has backed things like Heimerdinger Ziggs, wave clear champions, play a lot of tank team fighters top lane. They like to take team fights slow. And then we see them come out of the gates with a hugely fast game. We see V3 come out and recover from that game and stomp AXIZ into the dirt.
Oh yeah, and I think there's something I want to cover that, yes, LJL has been known for its slow games, but it's also been known for its team fighting. And when we are seeing a lot of champions that are damn good at team fighting, and the LJL not being afraid to pick some different picks for the region, we are starting to see some serious level 6 firepower, and it's meant that people have started snowballing with those level 6s. We saw a Nocturne, an Echo, and a Nautilus, and for that matter, an Aphelios, all throwing down at level 6 off the dot. And that has meant that, yes, while we are still in that same team fighting sphere, the fact that our teams are pulling the trigger a little earlier has meant these games have been real quick.
It's been amazing. I mean, that's real. Let's have a quick conversation, because I think we should. Ace on that Nocturne. Last picked. What? Beautiful! Honestly, it looked a bit wild. It looked a little bit crazy, especially into a Rise. Not the pick I would particularly want to personally
I don't think it's
go.
awful into Rise.
It's not awful.
Because if you dive onto the Rise and you put the Fear Tether down, we saw it once, because in fairness, he wasn't aiming for the Rise, he was aiming for other people. You can cancel his ult pretty quickly.
But how clutch did that ult come in multiple team
huge.
fights from Ace? Just like that 3-man, 4-man dive on bot lane, like when everybody had just hit 6 or 5. That was like a huge thing. And then far later, they got the 4 for 0 and the Baron, partly because of the Ace.
Huge, yeah.
And like we also had the 4 for 1, where they got like it was just an amazing one where it was up top lane, and they didn't even need the Set ult, because Set was actually TPing in. Paz was TPing in, but it was like, it doesn't matter, because Nautilus ult into Ace, into Boogie, just whatever. And then that's where V3's AD carry, Archer, on the Aphelios, just like ended up getting like 3 kills. I think he got a triple kill.
Yeah, he ended the game 11-1 and 6.
It was nuts. And I think actually, in terms of debut games, okay, we said it was hard to play against DFM.
Yes.
He did well in lane, and he had some good MF ults there. This game, he just ran ramshard over this AXIZ team. Like, he was walking forward into a Kale with 2 items and however many levels up on him and just saying, well, bring it, I don't care.
Like, I'm being made to eat my words. I said that V3 was going to be a top lane focused team with Boogie and Paz. going at it up there, and it's been the absolute opposite. It's been Boogie and Ace finding roams and dives down bot lane, and Paz dealing with whatever pressure is coming his way. And it's been really working for them. Like, at least in this second game, we saw exactly what they wanted to do. While it was a bit of an off-meta combination, we could see exactly what the plan was, right? Nautilus, Nocturne, and Echo are all wonderful dive champions, and Felix is going to provide the AoE damage, and we saw it really work out. Poor old Hyde on that Ashe just couldn't find anywhere to stand.
Kind of sucked. Bad game for the Ashe.
Bad game, but I mean, still very well played by both sides. It was a cracking one to see from V3 and the first game from AXIZ. I mean, I think we'd all agree they definitely stepped up to this game.
Maybe if they had the blue champions on the blue side, they would have won.
Maybe. We'll have to find out. Potentially they'll try it again, but we're going to go on a very short break here, and we will be right back to go into our next game of AXIZ versus Crest Gaming. We'll see you very shortly.
Burning core.
It's a burning core.
Crest Gaming later.
Crest Gaming. Oh, my bad. This is why you guys are here. This is why you guys are here.
I'm putting a tally down.
Yeah.
God damn it. It's already on 2 probably. So we'll be right back with AXIZ versus Burning Core.
Yes. See you then.
See you very soon. Take care.